In recent videos, we've been covering doing map study and covering water. Now today, we're going to be looking at some lures. While on paper they seem like they should work, but they're actually costing you bites and you're just wasting your time. We're going to look at why they don't work and what you should be using instead. Stick around, we're going to talk all about it. Ooh, I just got popped. You see that? Got him! Oh yeah, there we go. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing. And now that we're entering the heart of the dog days of summer, August and September can be two of the hardest months of the year to go out and try to catch some bass. A lot of anglers make a bad situation worse with their lure choices. We're going to talk about why they don't work and how you can read the conditions on the lake to tell what you need to be throwing instead. But before we get started, if you like what I do here, subscribe to the channel. And while you're down there, give this video a like. I would really appreciate it. And also, if you haven't yet, head on over to patreon.com and check out my Patreon space. It's a place for viewers to interact with me on a more personal level. You'll see updates about how I'm refurbishing my boat, fixing the parts that go broken, and it's also a place where I can post polls for you guys to pick what's going on my boat and for new video ideas. Again, it's going to be in the description and in the pinned comment. Check it out. So, what are some popular lure choices for this time of year, and why might they not work? Well, we're going to talk, first of all, about topwater. Yes, this is a good old head and spook. One of my absolute favorite topwater lures. They work amazingly well, especially at covering water. If you need a topwater bait that's going to cover water, well, a spook, a whopper plopper, and a buzzbait. Those are about going to be your best bets. But why am I not using this so much right now? Well, the simple fact of the matter is, I know where the bass are. They're busting all over the place. I don't have to search for them. So I don't need a search bait. I can see with my own eyes. Again, forward-facing sunglasses. But if I'm looking at what those bass are doing, I can see that while I can catch a few fish on these, it's not going to catch me a bunch of numbers of fish, and it probably isn't going to catch me large size of fish, because that's not what those bass are chasing. They're chasing small shad fry, small bluegill fry, in immense clouds. That's what they've been chasing since May. And those fish are getting ever bigger, but I'm still concentrated on what those bass are focused on. And every time I head out to the lake, it does not matter what day it is, I'm seeing bass bust everywhere. But like we've talked about in videos before, they bust on the surface and then they're gone. You can see that if you have electronics. Those bass are showing up as just blurs because they're chasing those bait balls. Now, something like a spook, sure, you can cast it out there and you can walk it back. And I'm not saying that you're not going to get any bites, but you are definitely limiting the number of bites that you are going to get. I've been shifting to something much smaller, something like this little chug bug. I wait for the bass to explode. I wait to see them bust up. I fire in there and I'm able to catch a lot more bass doing it that way. Sure, I don't have a line in the water as often, but what's the point of having a line in the water if you're wasting time trying to bring it back in so you can cast back where the bass were a few seconds ago, when it's better just to be able to cast where the bass are now and greatly increase your chances of getting a strike? Something like this little head and torpedo, right? I've talked about these at length because they work. This is going to work on any fishery all across the country. If you've got bass that are chasing small fry, small bait fish, I'm telling you, that's going to work. And the best way to do it every single time is to wait until you see those bass busting, preferably within a cast's length, and you fire that bait out in there. It's a bit of a waiting game. You're going to have to wait just a little bit. Sure, you might be able to fire it out there and get a bass to explode on it on a random cast, just like you normally would. But I have found more often than not that I'm actually missing bites whenever I'm impatient and try to keep casting and cover water. If I sit patiently still and I throw that small topwater out there, I'm rewarded way more often than not. So I've gone away from large topwater like a spook or a buzzbait or a whopper plopper down to smaller ones like this storm chug bug, which has been catching 3 and 4 pound toads for me. Just because it's a little popper doesn't mean it's going to catch little fish. This head and torpedo, I've caught numbers of fish. I've had days where I've kept this tied on all day, and this is the only bait that I've worked, and I've caught every single fish on it. Just like this guy right here. Got him. Come here, you. So, not a bad fish. And on a day when the heat is just so oppressive and you've got bluebird skies, any bite is a good bite. So, I can actually play a pretty good numbers game with those smaller types of topwater. Even this guy, for a change of pace, you've heard me talk about this. This is that small booyah prank. And this is like in a moonbeam color. I'm not really sure. It's kind of got that translucent to it. I have caught so many fish. Now, this is a little bit of a bait you need to figure out. It doesn't work like a popper, and it doesn't really work like a crankbait. But I've caught fish both cranking it and working it like a popper. You have to twitch it, let it come back up, and then twitch it again. You're not walking this. That bill does pull it down. But the lighter you twitch it, the quicker it comes back up. So you can kind of give it light twitches and kind of work it faster that way. Or you can give it heavy pops where it'll be heavy spit. Mixing it up is what I do, and that's what's working. I caught some really nice fish doing that. So what's the other type of bait that everybody wants to throw right now? Deep diving crankbait. This is a 6XD. And yes, I've caught a lot of fish with this particular bait. But why am I not throwing this right now? Why am I, whenever I get out to the deeper water, even 15, 20, 25 feet deep, why am I staying with this little head and torpedo over this? Because of one thing, the thermocline. A lot of anglers forget to think about the thermocline, especially if you don't have electronics. But I'm telling you what, in the summertime, especially as that lake water gets up into the mid 80s, upper 80s, and even to the mid 90s like it is on the big lake. The last time I was out, the lake was 94 to 96 degrees in most spots. And it didn't matter if it was sun or shade because that water's constantly mixing. Now, up shallow to about 10 to 12 feet, there's hardly any thermocline on the big lake at all because you have all that vegetation which pumps oxygen into the water. But when you get away from that and you start to get a good bit offshore, and there are pockets of deep water on the big lake, and we're talking 20, 25, and even up to 30 feet deep. Well, for a lot of places, that might just be a mud puddle. But for lakes along the Gulf South, that's incredibly deep since most of them are usually in that 5 to 10 foot range, and that's as deep as they get. But there's not a lot of vegetation, which means there's not a lot of oxygen being created, which means you get a pretty hard thermocline. And since I'm seeing bass busting in those areas and chasing bait in those areas, I want to go out there and fish them. And this is not what's working for me right now because this goes below that thermocline. Below that thermocline is completely devoid of oxygen, and there's not any fish beneath it. So I have to stay above that. So I have to make better choices with the lures that I'm using. And that's where I'm throwing something like this. Kind of doing a good drift here. So we've had some nice fish today. Put some nice fish in the boat. Oh, that's a good one. Come on, you're not running at me. Oh, that's another one. Oh, that's a good one. That's the biggest one of the day. Whoa, he's got some fight to him. Whoa, and he ran right at me too, and I had to do everything I could to catch up to him. Come here, you. Look at that. Look at that fat belly on that guy. Look at the fat belly on that guy. Wow. And he hit it like it owed him money. I got him all kinds of ways. You weren't not going anywhere, buddy. He hit it and then tried to run at me. So the lowbrow rig doing work again. And that's what they want, that little Crush City little thing. He's a little bit bigger than the last one. He's, I don't know, pound and a half. Got a nice fat belly on him, all tummied up. So just about every year at this time, you guys see me talk about this little setup right here. I've used it for years now, and my viewers call it the lowbrow rig. It's, you know, in this case, a bitsy flip or even a little swim jig, a little 1/4 ounce jig that I've taken the skirt off, and I'm threading a small swim bait on. In this case, a 3-inch Crush City Mayor. These things are amazing, especially on these little jig heads. Now, I'm fishing this through all that vegetation, which is why I'm putting it on a little swim jig head. And it works great. I've got it on a finesse spinning setup, medium light rod, 10-pound braid, and this is a 5.2-to-1 gear ratio spinning reel. I've got a copoly, an 8-pound copoly leader on this thing, which gives me that invisibility because, yes, line shyness is a thing, and it does affect the number of bites I get. If I go straight braid, I don't get nearly the bites. So that's all the evidence that I need. If I put a short copoly leader on there that's a little bit more invisible in the water, then I get more bites on it. But I'm mimicking more of what those bass are chasing. And something like that little swim bait gets me so many bites, as long as I'm staying in those areas where they're feeding on those bait fish. And that's all you really have to look for when you head out to the lake, and just be still and quiet. That's all you have to do. Remember what the older generation told you. Be patient, be still, and just observe. And it doesn't take but a few minutes, and you can see the activity. The lake will reveal to you what you need to do and where you need to go. And more importantly, it will reveal to you the techniques that are going to work best. You see the bass busting on all those little minnows? Well, you can do topwater, or you can try to get down in those clouds of little minnows with something like this. And I just slow roll it, and I get crushed on this. So those are my two biggest players. And a matter of fact, that little swim bait is my follow-up. If I get blown up on and I miss that topwater bite, I fire right back in there with that little swim bait. So letting the lake, letting those bass tell me what they're interested in, that makes everything so much easier. Is it going to be a 30 or 40 fish day? Probably not. But it can be a 10, 15 fish day, especially if you only have one day every other week or once a month, or you only have a few hours to work with. That's when you should really be maximizing how many bites you're trying to get. So trying to force it by using this and this. Like I said, you might be able to get some bites on this, but you really don't need it if you can see where those bass are. You don't need to search for them. And if you've got a really hard thermocline, why are you throwing this? There's nothing down there. I'm not throwing jigs. I'm not throwing Texas rigs. I'm not throwing anything that's on the bottom whenever I see the thermocline. There's no point in it. There's no fish. And even if they do see your bait, they're not going to go down there after it because there's no oxygen. They're just going to let it go by. So you want to stay where the bass are focused, where the bass are feeding. And like I said, you give it just a few minutes and they will show you what they are doing. So there you have it. When you're fishing this summer, try not to make a bad situation worse. We can try to force it and end up getting skunked, or we can take a few minutes and listen to what those bass have to tell us. When you do that, I'm telling you, you will get more bites. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.